Right, welcome to Rambling Achieved. As you can see, another month has drawn to an end, and here we are to rank the things that I beat in May. So we had for May another event in the Discord, which was Sci-Fi, and well, it was initially Star Wars inspired, and then we expanded it out to being Sci-Fi to try and make sure that as many people as possible could, you know, experience and hop in and join in. And yeah, so was also being very, well, I was being very lax with it because, as you can see, the very first title ended up qualifying for it, but there's some people who could probably argue that steampunk and other stuff like that maybe doesn't qualify. But I thought it was going to be, it gave me the perfect opportunity to roll with Dishonored 2 because it's a series that I've played a little bit of. I remember doing the first game on the 360, back when that first release, whenever that was. That was must have been years ago. And I remember enjoying it, but never ended up beating it. And it was close to the transition period of 360 going into next gen at the time, so never ended up like going back and wrapping that up. And it was only in when they went and re-released it with the, I think it was definitive edition is what it was when I went back and like fully beat the first game, did the DLCs, did I think I did Death of the Outsider as well before doing 2. And for some reason, like I never got round to doing Dishonored 2, and this was the first game of the month for me. Um, and I gotta say, like, it really does just reaffirm my feelings of like why I didn't like Thief's reboot over this. Like the gameplay is so much more snappier, so much more enjoyable to play in Dishonored 2 than it is Thief. Um, the only things that I did want to quickly point out, if I can find my notes for it, would have been good to have these ready to go. I ended up getting like a really aggressive headache about 20 or so minutes into the game, and I didn't know what was going on with that. Um, and I was looking through the options menus to see if you could turn off like stuff like motion blur and stuff like that, see if that could help alleviate it. And no matter what I did, it didn't seem to help. So I ended up going and Googling, and it is not only like a fixed 30 FPS title still, unfortunately, they've never put out a 60 FPS patch, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, they I can't remember what people were saying that they did, but it's something to do with like aim acceleration or something like that with the sensitivity and like how what's the word? How the you touch the stick and it is just so sensitive. I ended up having to like bump down the sensitivity quite a lot to make it not so jittery, and that did help with like the feeling of motion sickness and stuff like that. But bar that, you could probably get through. If you played the game solely for like 2 hours, you probably wouldn't even need to make the changes. You'd end up getting attuned to it. But yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that they've never gone out and done a next gen patch. Um, they they obviously make really good like immersive sims, and this is the same here for Dishonored 2. It's a really, really fun game, giving you plenty of choices and ways in which you can tackle dealing with your targets and stuff like that. Obviously, the non-lethal and lethal options are back in full force, and they do it so damn well. They do it really, really damn well. And I quite like the something I noticed while I was doing transitioning between the missions, because you go back to like the safe haven hub thing, much like you have in the first game. It's a different place this time, but decisions you've made, they bring back like a memento I guess is what you would say, like something to show that you've chosen that, and then it's placed in like your safe cabin thing, which is always a cool thing. I really appreciate it when games do that, when you make a choice and then it's visually shown to you. Um, the mission layouts are really damn good. You have some of the most creative mission layouts I think I've ever seen in a first-person game, with so many different routes to be able to go in and tackle. Because it's not even just tackling the targets; it's being able to enter places, um, and yeah, whether or not you want to go in loud or sneaky and stuff like that. And yeah, really really fun, and it's so unbelievably masterfully crafted that they have a game mode where in which you can just turn the powers off from the very beginning, so you never get the mark of the outsider, and you're well and truly able to just go through and beat the game, if you have enough patience to learn the map layouts and stuff like that. It's really good, really cool. Um, yeah, and like it's what kind of makes me a little bit disappointed with obviously them under the Bethesda umbrella doing Redfall and stuff like that, and this game seemingly it did really well review wise, but didn't seem to set the world alight with sales and stuff like that, especially from like day one sales. So it's it's a genre that really seems to struggle in the modern age, and it's really unfortunate that we don't get that, because like Prey was amazing as well, and it had the same issues of trying to appeal to people. Um, but yeah, other than that, like I really enjoyed it, really really enjoyed it. Much more than I think I don't know if it would. I think one and two are neck and neck. Like they're very, very like outstanding games. Um, I think the later parts of Dishonored 2 are probably slightly more balanced, in my opinion, than the later parts in Dishonored 1. Um, but yeah, just an absolutely phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. So just a friendly reminder before we throw it into the old rankings. Keep in mind, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I know in my head I keep meaning to mention it, so I do want to make sure that I've said it here, and then hopefully I won't have to keep repeating this. Obviously, this isn't ranking them like in a way of like critical feeling, or like I'm not reviewing these games. These are just how much I enjoyed them, and that is the only basis for the ranking. Um, so Dishonored 2, I'll put in an A. I think what keeps it out of being an S for me is the weird performance things that still haven't been addressed. Them deciding to, because it would be pretty easy to put out a 60 FPS patch for this game. I imagine they'll probably do it in the future at some point. But yeah, that's really the only thing I can really dig it out for. Like the entire game from start to finish is just a blast to play. Very rich. I love just the world that they've built as well. It's really, really, really unique. With it, they refer to it as whale punk, which is obviously taking heavy inspiration from steampunk and stuff like that, but it's from powered from whale oil instead. But yeah, it's really fun, really fun. A2, we'll go with that. All right, up next is Lost Planet 1. I believe this was a launch title within like the first year for the 360. Very strange game. It kind of reminds me a lot of Earth Defense Force, if you've ever played that. Um, there's like slight Monster Hunter vibes, but we'll get into that a little bit more because that more so reflects in the second game than the first. But yeah, it was just the series. Like it was the perfect opportunity, like I said, with the event rolling, to dive into sci-fi games, and I decided to attempt to go through the entire Lost Planet trilogy of games, and I ended up I didn't end up finishing the third game, unfortunately. I did a bit of it, but ended up tapping out. But I did the first and second game. It's definitely an aged game. You can definitely feel that this is from an era where standardized controls still weren't like universally locked in, if that makes sense. You know, you had games still experimenting with what it meant to be. I remember one of the PlayStation first party exclusives, the shooters, like they had aiming be, I think, the left bumper instead of trigger and stuff like that. Like there's it's from that era where people were still experimenting. But other than that, like it's a kind of a cool little experience that you get going. You're stuck on a planet and they've got like survival elements tied into it. The whole thing is revolving around you're trying to find a way of getting energy basically, because I think Earth, I don't know if it's confirmed that it's Earth. I don't think it is. But I may be just mixing up the games because I know in the third game they confirm that you're trying to get energy back to Earth. So I don't know if this is originally Earth. But there's been an energy crisis, and these little like alien things drop, as you can see when you're picking it up, like their thermal energy. And that's like the whole basis premise of the game is you have like PMCs and stuff like that fighting over these resources. But yeah, like the first game isn't like in it's not strong narrative. It tries to like apply a little bit of a story there, but it's mainly just the like when this would have come out, it would have been cool to have these big open environments fighting these big enemies, and you get mechs later on in the game that you're able to operate and fight with and stuff like that. But yeah, the narrative wasn't really the strong point. They tried to. It was weird because they put a little bit more effort into characterizing the main character in this game than they did Lost Planet 2, but in Lost Planet 2 they really tried to make you care about the story a lot more. It was kind of a weird thing. You'd think that you'd try and characterize your people on top of that, but they didn't. But yeah, the the overall game, it's fun. It kind of just reminds you of like Shell Shock, and Shell Shocked I think is what it was called on PS2. Just from that like era and design of games. The only like big complaint I have is the final four missions in the game are like really brutal slogs to get through. It just relies on the amp up as many enemies as you can, spawn them in, and you know that'll be the difficulty. It's just artificial difficulty. It's really not enjoyable when you get to that point, and yeah. So it's definitely a game that it's cool to go back to, but I don't think I wouldn't say it's aged particularly well. It's not aged the worst, but it's definitely not. I wouldn't sit here and say that it's like a must play. You know, if you miss out on it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. This was very much Capcom in their weird experimental days before they started hitting out like masterpieces and stuff like that. So this was them kind of just being a little bit more creative. But yeah, don't really have much else to say on it. It's just a third-person shooter at the end of the day, an early 360 third-person shooter. So with that being said, where would I rank it? I'm gonna be brutally honest. If it didn't have that like really big dip towards the end, with the final 3 or 4 levels being really tedious, it probably would have landed itself in the B. But I think for Lost Planet 1, I ended up probably landing around like a C. It's a fine game. I would never ever want to replay it. If they ever remastered it, I wouldn't touch it. Maybe if you did a remake and like uprooted a lot of the stuff and heavily redesigned the game, maybe I'd be willing to check it out, but I think that's me done for Lost Planet 1, if I'm being honest. Alright. I do want to apologize ahead of time. I didn't get any. I forgot to get footage for Lost Planet 2. I was co-oping it through the entire game with Captain Corndog, and I completely forgot to click record as we were having, a good time playing through it. So this is actually Lost Planet 3. But of the two games, I would probably say that, the graphical leaps from Lost Planet 1 is more closer to Lost Planet 3 than 1 for 2. So yeah, we'll have this running in the background, but just know that the footage that is playing isn't technically Lost Planet 3. 2, I mean, sorry. Right, so the things that I wrote down was that it had major graphical improvements and gameplay as well. It definitely wasn't perfect in the gameplay. You could definitely still feel that it had the roots of Lost Planet 1, where they weren't, again, standardized controls that had been fully adopted in a lot of third-person shooters by that point, but they did tweak enough things where it didn't feel completely obtuse, which was nice. Strange thing as well, because Lost Planet 1 was entirely single player, and then it had a multiplayer mode, like a competitive multiplayer mode. And then Lost Planet 2 is so incredibly designed with being a fully fledged co-op game that it's kind of weird to try and play it in single player. So that's why I end up opting to go for it. And it's a really good co-op game. It falls into that category of like Dead Space 3. Like, yeah, it probably doesn't do a good job of endearing itself to like its core single player fan base that helped build the IP as to what it was, but like Lost Planet 2 is like a really fun co-op game. It has so much Monster Hunter inspiration. It's kind of wild. Something I also wanted to point out was we noticed, I think there was 2 instances of this, but the most notable one was the intro sequence. When you're playing in co-op, the very first like prologue mission, you're not with your co-op partner. You're in one scene and they're off in a completely different part of the map doing their own thing, and the game doesn't tell you that, and it doesn't like translate that, and you find that out as like when you're talking obviously to your friend if you're playing them. And it was a kind of like a weird, that's kind of cool, because like shit hits the fan and then they have to come over and like provide assistance and stuff like that. And it was just like, I'd really like to see that happen more in co-op games where it's kind of like natural and organic in the way that it blends it in. Like that'd be really cool to see. You can definitely tell it was a Lost Planet game, because what I wrote down was it sadly does have pacing issues again, which is what that first game did have. But it was even worse in Lost Planet 2. You had a really weird. Some missions would take 3 minutes to complete, and others would take 40 minutes to complete. And it was a kind of a weird. It's kind of difficult to have a co-op game like that, and I'm not saying it happened to us, but I can envision that it's hard to convince somebody to play a co-op game as your co-op partner when there's that much gap in between how much the missions take to be played, because obviously people have to go and they need to go do other stuff. So you kind of need like a reliable, consistent time that levels take to complete. You can't just be like, yeah, this mission takes 15 minutes and then this one takes 5 minutes and then this one takes 55 minutes. Like it's really not good. It also hurts the pacing of the game quite a lot when you're doing that. Final thing as well, what we noticed is you can definitely tell it's an original fully fledged 360 game, because it had crossover skins and you didn't have to pay for them. It was a really cool like realization when we was in one of the lobbies. Something also cool is that there were still people playing it in 2026. We frequently filled up lobbies with people, and that was really cool. But you had, I believe what it was there was a bunch of Capcom IP characters that they pulled from. So you had like Wesker that you could have, and all of these were like, you either had to beat the game to get some of them, or you had to have a save file from the game on the system, and then it would give it to you, or you inputted a code, which isn't like a paid code, it's a universal, you can go type it up. I think IGN had all the codes. But yeah, it was cool. You had like Frank West, Wesker. I believe whatever platform you were on also received their own exclusive ones. So for Xbox, it was Dom and Marcus Phoenix, and then PlayStation, it was the Hellgast from Killzone, I think is what it was, and then something else. But yeah, it was kind of cool. Really cool. Really fun co-op game. I couldn't probably imagine I'd be as hot on it as if I played it in single player, if I'm being honest. I think the game heavily shines at being a co-op experience. So if that sounds interesting, it's backwards compatible on Xbox. Runs really well. So if you have it lying around and wanted to check it out, definitely hit people up and see if you can get a co-op session going, because it's a really fun game overall. Really fun. All right, time to rank it. For Lost Planet 2, it's definitely better than the first game. I'd probably put it in B for me. The pacing issues keep it out from being an A tier thing, but there's a lot of really damn good moments in this game. You had really high cinematic moments that occurred, which was really cool. But other than that, it doesn't do anything outlandishly special. It's still at the end of the day just a third-person shooter, but yeah, really fun co-op third-person shooter. So we will land that in the B tier. Just realised that I'd clicked play and the old mic was paused, so good job there. So apologies for that gap. Good thing I noticed that very quickly. Right, what I was saying is this is the only game from the month that wasn't Sci-Fi. This is obviously Mixtape. Kind of took the internet by storm for a while there. Very heavily divided people. It was one that me and Brandon had seen in one of the showcases that we were very excited to, get our hands on it finally. I think he probably landed a little bit warmer on it than I did. I know a few people in the Discord really liked it. Others just felt like it was okay. I think I would probably lean more on the realm of it feeling like it was just okay. Nothing against the game at all. It sets out to try and tap into the nostalgia of an early 90s childhood. So if you grew up and was coming of age during the 90s, this will probably resonate with you a hell of a lot more. But yeah, for a lot of other people, it's probably going to be difficult to relate to a lot of the stuff. But other than that, it's fun. It's a fun game. There was a lot of unnecessary hatred thrown towards its way, which kind of felt annoying to watch unfold, if I'm being 100% honest. If something's not for you, you don't need to engage with it negatively because of that. Just move on at the end of the day. But yeah, I definitely prefer their previous game, which was The Artful Escape, to this personally. It landed with me a hell of a lot more. I didn't like. I think her name was Rockford, the main character, where it is following the story of multiple characters, but she is technically the one that you're controlling. and yeah, I just didn't really relate to her. I found her very annoying. Didn't The personality was quite grating, so it's probably what happened with a lot of other people, unfortunately, and that's why it's very easy to probably hate this game for many. But yeah, it's not bad. It does enough. It's kind of like a narrative walking sim like esque thing, like within that umbrella of genre, but it obviously does a lot more than that. There's a lot more gameplay. There's mini games put in there. Yeah, there's more meat to it than a lot of the other games. But again, if you're not really from that era, or you're not gelling with the music, because that is like the big thing, obviously, in the game, is that it's a character that is trying to plan their final day of summer, basically, to summarize it quickly, and they have a playlist because they want to be a musician and they're going to be moving away, and they have like the perfect playlist planned out for the day. And yeah, a lot of the songs didn't really land with me, and they're not really my type of thing either. So again, it's definitely designed with a very specific audience in mind, but it's a fun game. It's a fun game. Also, kudos to the, I don't know where it would fall under, probably the publisher more so than the developer. But they've came out and said that obviously all this licensed music in the game, there was a lot of people worried that it would result in delistings and stuff like that. Apparently, they've landed a deal to have the licenses in perpetuity, which means basically as long as there's a storefront that will sell this game, you'll be able to buy it, which is a really cool thing to see be announced, because that is obviously a really big worry for a lot of titles when you do licensed products. Even if it's just product placement, music is a massive issue for a lot of games to stay up, but they seem to have that kind of figured out, which is kind of cool. But yeah, creative game, fun. I wouldn't have paid money for it. I will be 100% honest with that. I would have probably waited. I wouldn't have bought it day one, is what I should have more so said. It was in Game Pass, so easy thing to be able to just jump in and check out, but I wouldn't have got it day one with a lot of the stuff that I'd heard from it. But yeah, that is what it is. It is an experience, that is for sure. And where would I rate that experience? It's a tough one, this. I think as like what it tries to set out and do for its particular audience would probably be fine to put it in the B tier, but from like a personal enjoyment perspective, I would probably land in the C tier. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than the original Lost Planet, though. I'll give it that. So there we go. That is them four. Moving on to the old Star Wars Outlaws next. All right, Star Wars Outlaws. Obviously, this is a game that came out relatively recently. Isn't too old of a game. Had a little bit of a rough intro into the old market. I think a lot of people were very harsh on it. Rightfully so in some aspects, of course. You know, with a Ubisoft game, unfortunately, something that's always going to plague it is that they'll always have incredible environmental designs, but like the facial features for the budget that they command in their games is always just really poor. Like bad lip syncing, bad facial animations and stuff like that. It's kind of unfortunate. Hopefully they can figure that shit out moving forward. But yeah, this was one that I played at release initially and then put down. And I could never quite put my finger on why I did. Because I didn't hate the game, but I wasn't like enamored with it. And then when I was about 3 or 4 hours into Outlaws, it all like fell into place. Because what it was when the game first came out, there was a heavy emphasis on stealth. They kind of heavily discouraged you from using your blaster and going loud and trying to make it into like an action based game. They very much wanted it felt like to make a stealth game. Now the problem with that is that the stealth takedowns in this game are some of the worst animations I've ever seen. So they have no feeling of impact, which then translates to they're not appealing to see play out happen again and again and again and again. So it was kind of like, weird that you want to kind of focus on this when it's your weakest aspect. Your mission layouts, like the map designs, aren't particularly engaging either from a game that really wants to be a stealth game. In the 1.0 version, you would have like fail states, and then you'd have to be pushed all the way back to like a checkpoint. They've heavily uprooted a lot of this. You can basically go loud whenever for most scenarios, and I think that was probably for the best. Unfortunately, it's too little too late for a lot of people. Like, this is the type of stuff that it's why QA is so important. Like, you need to be give a product to a bunch of people, have them test it, and then them turn around and be like, yeah, this probably isn't it, and then go off of that feedback. Because I would struggle to see a vast majority of people being handed that and then being like, yeah, man, this stealth systems that you've created, this is all perfect, stuff like that. Because it's really, really not. And it's really unfortunate because we don't get very many Star Wars games of this like open world caliber and stuff like that. So to see it be squandered, so it's kind of disappointing in a way. But yeah, it's very Uncharted coded, um, with a lot of its other design when it allows you to be a little bit more loud and exploring the openness. But yeah, it doesn't hit the heights that Uncharted did. So it left people feeling a little bit down on the game, and like rightfully so, given the price that it came in at and stuff like that, and the expectation that they build it up as, especially with it being like a smuggler story, trying to like capture Han Solo's type of thing, and then not really letting you be that suave kind of smuggler type person for a lot of the game. But yeah, I'm also just not a fan of Kay as a character. If I'm being honest, she gets a little bit of development later on in the game, but I don't think she would ever land in like a top 10 for me for a Star Wars character. So yeah, kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. But other than that, it's it's a fun game. It has some really cool space combat, which I should have probably grabbed footage for. It's way more competent than you would probably imagine. If you think of like Starfield that tackled it, you have No Man's Sky and stuff like that, and like it holds its own in that regard for sure. The space combat's really fun. It lets you explore little pockets of space as well in the atmosphere, and orbit of not atmosphere, the orbit of planets. Um, but yeah, other than that, it just feels like a spaghetti of ideas that didn't quite land, because they had something similar to Odyssey's like mercenary system, but instead of it being single individuals, you had syndicates that you were trying to like curry favor with, and it didn't really land all that much. If I'm being 100% honest, they don't feel like they impact the game whatsoever, whether or not they're on your side or not. So it was kind of a dud, in my opinion, of trying to do that. It's cool that your actions have consequences in air quotation marks, but there's nothing that makes all that much of an impact when you're choosing to give a piece of information to one syndicate or the other in a pivotal mission and stuff like that. So yeah, it's it's much more just a Ubisoft coded game, and I think a lot of people kind of know that by now. But it's definitely one that's worth giving a go if you can get it on like a cheap sale and stuff like that. It's not a worthless title by any stretch of the imagination. It can be very fun in ways. The speeder as well that you get, like your what do you call it? Your equivalent of a mount is the speeder, and it has like insane speed. Like that's something I do want to congratulate them on. You have so many mount-based systems in games where you have modes of travel, and it just doesn't feel like it makes any lick of difference. But with that speeder, like you catch some speed, which is really really cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and rank it. Alrighty, the old Star Wars Outlaws. If I was probably pushing through and playing this all the way back when, it would have scored a hell of a lot lower. I do appreciate them listening to feedback from fans, making the adjustments to having it much more lean towards being an action game than a stealth game, which really hurts me on like a core level because I very, very much love stealth games. So I would have loved to have seen them pull this off, but they just couldn't. But as like an overall title, I think I'd land it in the B tier ahead of Lost Planet here. This is like a high B. I didn't really engage with much of the side content stuff. I just wanted to get through it. I've heard the DLCs are pretty good, so I'll be returning at some point to do them. But yeah, it's just a solid game. Solid game. Strange one here. Apologies for this. It says it's running the video in 720p, so I don't know why that is. This was an older capture, so that's probably why. So apologies for the not so stellar showing of it, but you know, you get the gist of what the game is. And what that game is MechWarrior 5 Clans. This is a series that I had no attachment to a few years back, didn't even know it existed. I think I knew it existed because it spans from the BattleTech, is what it's pulling from the tabletop. And I think I saw a few people play BattleTech when I used to go to a gaming tabletop shop. Never played it myself, but I think I saw a few people play it. But I didn't know they made games for this. And it's really cool when you stumble upon something like that, because I remember it would have been MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is what it was called, and that's more of like a sandbox style game. And that was my first like step into the IP in game terms, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. A hell of a lot of fun. And then seeing that they did this game, I was just expecting it to be more or less the same. Hats off to, I believe they're called Piranha Games Incorporated. So many named developers have very similar names. Your Piranha Games, Piranha Bytes, Ninja Theory, Team Ninja. Should probably try and look at getting a little bit more creative, guys, to try and avoid confusion. But they announced that this game was coming out, and I just assumed it would have been more of like the sandbox stuff. And it's not. It's not that at all. It's really crazy. They went really narrative heavy in this game. Like the moment to moment gameplay is exactly the same. As mercenaries, you're deployed on planets. You have a troop of mechs, and you're controlling them. You can issue them commands and stuff like that. But like when you're transitioning between missions and stuff, you're getting like really high quality cutscenes, and like an actual proper story unfolding. And it's kind of surprising. Very much appreciated and welcomed, but very much surprising. And yeah, I really, really love what they do here. I've always been like interesting mech-based combat, but the mech-based combat I've always seen is like Gundam, which is like fast-paced. Not Ace Combat. I always mix that up. Armored Core. Armored Core was another one, but that's way too fast-paced for me. And yeah, these just feel like tanks, which is what they really should do, in my opinion. And it's just really meaty and fluid combat for what it is. And solely the reason as to why this video is coming out late is because I was trying to cram it in as an event clear, and it just wouldn't end. That would be like my biggest complaint, because the same thing happened in Mercenaries as well. In the final 2 missions, they just dragged it out relentlessly, and that was the same for this. Like, my word of caution is there's no checkpoints in the games. Like, once you deploy it, so you need to do it all in one sitting. Obviously, you can pause the game, but you have to do everything in one sitting. There's no save and quit feature, which is a big ask for people, especially when you get to for this MechWarrior 5 Clans, is like that final mission took over an hour. That's rough. That's rough. And for a lot of people, if you're not familiar with the series and stuff like that final mission is also really tough and challenging. So there's no repair stations like what you can see here. You have these repair stations that your mechs can go into and repair themselves. There's none of them in that final mission. It's crazy. So yeah, I got to that final mission, and you can see that you have 1 to 5 there in the bottom left. That's your crew, as it were. Everybody was dead but me, and I was having to play so passively, because if I didn't, I'd have to redo that entire mission again, and that would be easily like the top thing that they really need to address and fix. You really should be having autosave and checkpoints and stuff like that applied to your missions. I think that's a big ask, and it's really not going to help your series like break out of its usual fan base and target audience and stuff like that if you're not going to do that. But yeah, other than that, like a really fun game. Really damn, like the environments are pretty. You can't see it because it's 720p, but trust me, the environments are pretty for what they are. Obviously, it's not going to rival the likes of like a Last of Us and stuff like that, but for a sandbox-esque, crazy, over-the-top action mech game, like these are really good-looking environments, and there's like all the buildings are destructible and stuff like that. Like, it's really damn fun. But yeah, I don't know where they go from it. I know that there's been DLCs for both Mercenaries and Clans. I don't know if Clans, which is what this one is, I don't know if that's getting any more support. I know the team unfortunately saw recent layoffs, so hopefully it's going to be an IP that can even stick around, more so importantly than getting extra DLC. Hopefully they can put some new games out. But yeah, other than that, like I just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And wish them all the best, to be 100% honest. Alrighty, time to rank it. So I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. If that didn't have if it had checkpoints and the final mission wasn't a complete slog, it would be an S tier. Because of the shortcomings of that, I will put it in the A tier, but I've really enjoyed this series. I'm really pumped to see where they go next, if they get the opportunity and chance to make it. They're so close to their like Space Marine 2 moment that Saber had with the Warhammer series. Like, they're really close to having that, I feel. If they can get the fundamentals right with like autosaves and checkpoints, like I said, and make slight tweaks and adjustments to try and make it a little bit more appealing to somebody who has no interest in the IP, I think they could do really damn well. It will never break out into the tens of millions, of course, but if this can just shift a good chunk more copies than what they have done in the past, it'll do them the world of wonders. Like it's a game that really damn deserves it, in my opinion. But there we go. That is the month of May that is going to be unfortunately releasing in the month of June because of MechWarrior 5 Clans took 50 years to finish. But nah, it didn't make me sour on the game at all. I still love it. But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you had a fun, enjoyable May. I know a lot of you are from the Discord and have obviously been participating in the event. We'll be doing a voting process halfway through June to determine whatever July's event will be. And then I'm not decided if we'll do anything for September because we have the Shocktober event. So we might have a few months of buffer between that, just to give people time to play stuff that they don't want in a restrictive form. And then obviously the end of the year is the award process thing that we do on the Discord, which is always a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you in the next one. If you want to join a Discord of like-minded gamers such as yourself, pop a comment down below and I'll hit you back with the link. If you somehow also stumbled upon this before Brandon's channel, check out his channel in the description down below. We do a monthly podcast on this channel, but he does obviously amazing solo stuff over on his. The podcast should be locked in for the 7th of every month now. So that is going to be the aim for that. So this is obviously meant to go up on the very last day of the month, but it's trickled over a little bit. It's not going to affect the podcast release time. That will still come out on the 7th, as that's already been recorded and done and dusted. A lot of the time those podcasts are done weeks in advance, thankfully. But yeah, thank you very much for watching and hopefully see you in the next one.